3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is May the 2nd, 2022. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
May the 2nd be with you, Carl.
Thank you.
I mean, of course, the second round for your team.
Look, I'm not counting anything. I'm not taking anything for granted this year.
You shouldn't. You never know. We'll get into that a little later. Before we get into hockey, though, I have something non-hockey related that just popped into my head. Okay. I didn't tell you last week, did I, that I made ribs last weekend?
No, tell me more.
So last summer, at the end of the season, do you guys have Giant Tiger in Alberta?
Yes, but not in Calgary.
It's like
I think Edmonton has one.
It's like a value retailer. So anyways, at the end of last season, I find this offset smoker for sale at Giant Tiger, $50, 50. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
but
brand?
This thing is, it's unbranded. It's a piece of garbage. Like it's junk. For $50, I thought maybe I'll get one cook out of it. I've gotten 2 so far.
Okay.
But I had to bend the steel. First of all, the steel's so thin you could bend it. I had to wrap it in aluminum foil just to keep the heat in. And honestly, I don't know if I'll get a third cook out of it, but I feel like getting 2 out of it, it was worth my $50. So I did a rack of ribs last weekend with coal and hickory flavored wood. And it took me 6 hours to make a single rack of ribs to smoke it.
That sounds about right. Yeah, that's usually what I do.
It was so good.
Is that your first time smoking ribs?
Yeah.
Can I ask, I don't know if this is what your plan was. Can I ask more about your technique? Did you just put them on? Did you do anything to them?
No. So I followed I've read about this many, many times, and I followed what I found was called the 3-2-1 method. You ever heard about this?
Oh, that's the play.
Yeah. So that's what I did, where I just, I seasoned them with a special kind of dry rub that we may or may not have mentioned on this podcast before, Wayne's Dry Rub.
Mm-hmm. .com.
So I seasoned them with waynesdryrub.com. And then I put them on there for 3 hours, then wrapped them in foil. And I don't know if you do this or if this is normal, but I found this thing online where I put butter under and on top and then some brown sugar, wrap it in foil.
I've never done that, but I've seen it. Yeah.
Put it back on for 2 hours and then sauce it up and put it back on for 1 hour. And man, it was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way. I usually do. So when I wrap it after the 3 hour mark, I usually I take the foil and I make it into kind of a boat, and then I just pour some apple juice in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's my go-to. And then sauce at the end and let it get a little saucy. But yeah, that's the way. I'm so excited for another person to learn the ways of smoking ribs. That's fantastic.
Oh man, it was so good. My only complaint is my actual smoker, because the amount of heat that escaped, I had to be on it all day. I used almost a whole bag of coal.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is the opposite. I've got a double insulated smoker. And so
I feel like you probably spent a little more than $50 on it.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
Enough that I won't tell my wife how much I spent on it.
Good call.
But it works great. I also smoked last weekend. I got we were away for Easter weekend, so we didn't have dinner with the family. So we had folks over, and I did a prime rib on the smoker.
Oh, nice.
That was delicious. It was so good. And I took for granted a little bit just how good it was, but there was leftovers and you see it cooling down, and just all that marbling that had melted over I think I did 4 hours on the smoker, and it's just had all melted, and then you see it kind of come back. Oh, it was so good.
Oh, so good. Delicious. Yeah. I'm excited to do some more of this. I'll have to see the state of my cooker this weekend.
Well, the good news is it's warming up, so you'll lose less heat to the cold.
Yeah, that's true. I think I want to try smoking some chicken, some chicken wings.
Chicken wings are a good call.
Thighs.
If you are wanting to get more out of it, I suggest what I did. This game suggested to me, I'll pass it along. A welding blanket. Cheap. It's $20-$30. Take a welding blanket, put it over top of it, and that's going to keep all that heat in.
That's actually a really good idea. I'm gonna take that away.
So when I do like a minus 10, minus 20 degree cook, I just put the welding blanket on it.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'm gonna look into that. I'm glad I brought this up now. I wasn't planning on it, but I'm glad that I did. Anyways, we have hockey to talk about.
I was gonna say we just spent the first 6 minutes of a very jam-packed show talking about barbecue, and I couldn't be more happy about that.
It's kind of our MO. What game do you have on?
I've got Toronto on the TV and Boston on the iPad.
Oh, you're rocking the double game, hey?
I mean, we've got 2 games going on. We also have an amazing baseball series happening. Jays Yankees happening right now. It is quite the week here.
Yeah, man. Jays is looking good. But okay, let's focus on hockey.
Let us focus on hockey. It kind of leads me into what was going to be my open. What I was going to ask you. We're here. It's playoffs. We kind of have all, especially for me, I feel like the last few weeks I've really become disinterested as playoff races have really wrapped up. Like I'm not watching barely any games the last week or so.
Yeah.
But now we're all glued to the TV, right? Like, especially for us out west, I get home at 5:00 and that first game, like if I'm not leaving work by 4:45, I'm missing the start of that game. But games are going now. There are playoff games, intense, good quality, tough games from 5:00 till 11:00. What's your tradition? What are you doing to get you through these playoffs? Do you have a snack, beverage, a routine that you get into? What are you feeling for playoffs?
Well, for me, my snacking is all about my stovetop popcorn. I don't know if I've talked about my stovetop popcorn on the show before, but I do it in a pot on the stove with just loose kernels. And so normally the game starts 7:30. By 9:30, 10, I'm talking Eastern time here, Carl, don't get confused. By 9:30 or 10, boom, I throw the popcorn on the oven. That carries me through till 11. And then at 11, which is normally I'm in bed for a long time before that, I'll watch a bit of the late game. But this happens twice a year. Once at the start of the season when the regular season's first getting kicked off, and twice in the playoffs. It's 2 weeks where I'm just obsessed with hockey from 7 p.m. till midnight. I'm watching teams that I never normally watch.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? You're watching so much of these games that it's so easy. It's so good to watch all of it. So I'm excited. It's going to be great for me. I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, you got to get that late night snack in of whatever it is, right? To kind of get you over that hump. Some sort of drink of choice. You can't go hard, especially when the playoffs start on a Monday. You're not going hard. You got to pace yourself, get through the week. It is much like these teams. They have to get 16 wins. We need to get through without gaining 16 pounds. So
yes, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. But here we are. We're going to preview every single matchup, all 8 first round matchups, but we've got 2 pieces of news to get to. First, one, and you're the expert on this, Nick. The Detroit Red Wings announced this week the firing of Jeff Blashill.
Yeah. So first of all, finally, it had to happen. It had to happen. Second of all, you said Detroit the proper way, hey? Detroit.
I thought about that and I thought, is this correct? I went for it.
I think that's the technically correct way of saying it.
There you go.
It's like Toronto versus Toronto. Anyways, so Blashill had to happen. And I'm not a huge Blashill hater. This guy's come up over the course of the time that I've been doing this podcast. He's come up a few times. And I don't think I've ever really been vocal about they need to get rid of him. He has been okay through all of this. I mean, he's had zero, talent on his roster to work with over the course of these few years. And this year in particular was kind of interesting because they started off pretty good and the team was doing quite well for that team. And then in the second half of the year, the wheels fell off and they just went off the tracks. And it was like, it got to a point where I didn't even tune in because I didn't want to watch my team get scored against 10 times in a game. So it seemed like he kind of lost them towards the end of the season.
Well, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was he not the longest tenured coach in the NHL?
I think Jon Cooper is the longest, and I think he was the second.
Okay. That makes sense. Cooper's been there for a long time and been very successful. So, because through this whole process, it definitely felt like he was not the coach to take them to that next step. That he was just getting them through the rebuild.
Yeah, he was a stopgap. And now, like, this, to me, as much as, there was a lot of things this season that kind of signified a kind of step forward in the rebuild. This is a big one. This feels like we're turning a corner with this team in terms of where they are in their rebuilding phase.
Yeah. So where are you expecting them to go with the next coach?
Like who?
Like, is there a specific name? They looking internal, external, a veteran coach, some up and comer?
So I have a couple thoughts on this. I think Stevie's going to go off the board a little bit. And I think he's going to do one of two things. I don't think he's going to take one of these 20-year NHL coaches. He's not going to be calling up Mike Babcock or Joel Quenneville, or I don't even know who else is who's available right now. I think he's either going to go with some unknown from like Sweden or Finland from the European leagues, or he's going to keep bringing the gang back together and go find someone like Sergei Fedorov or Igor Larionov to step behind the bench.
That's exactly where I was thinking. As player after player keeps coming back to this organization, bringing one of them in some capacity is going to be that next direction. I mean, if Nick Lidstrom hadn't joined the front office, he would be a name that I could see as a potential. But it seems like, I mean, I like the idea of Sweden, but it seems like former player is the way they'll go.
I'd love to see like an Igor Larionov come back because of how he thinks the game. I think he's probably getting to be a little up there in age. He probably doesn't want to work that hard anymore. But I mean, Fedorov's someone who's finding success as a manager and as a coach in Russia. Well, who has over the last few years, this last year in the Russian league, I don't know what that's worth, but he has found success. So Fedorov's an interesting name to throw out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely could make sense for them because you do have some of those guys that are coaching. I mean, like you said, he's coaching quality. I think it's the same team that Datsuk went and played for when he went back over to the KHL. So it could be an interesting situation. We will see it will be an interesting situation because I think for a lot of players or a lot of coaches, they're looking at the Red Wings as a big up and coming team. And there's not as many teams with the talent, the front office, like Steve Yzerman's built. I mean, he's built the Lightning. He's building this team. I think that's a big selling point for a coach.
Yeah, I think the one other thing I'll note on this topic is that it wasn't just Blashill that was let go. It was Doug Huda, who was his assistant coach, and it was also Jeff Saleko, who is the goaltending coach. And I think that one is very telling. Saleko's been around for a while, but this team, I think the team's biggest issue this year was goaltending. So they need somebody to come in and work with Nedeljkovic because he's their guy. Like there's just not much that they can do about that right now. So they got to figure him out.
And I think that's a good choice to have him as their guy moving forward. So big offseason in Detroit, another big offseason, for the Winnipeg Jets. Missed the playoffs. And this is a team that should be, they weren't really contenders for the playoffs. They were kind of near the fringe all season, right? Kind of fell out of it. Second half of the year, didn't play great, didn't do well enough to push themselves up, just enough to keep they could smell. It's like your neighbors, right? They're not at your $50 smoker. They can smell the ribs, but they're not eating the ribs. So they've got some work to do. And interesting comments. Final day of media for these teams always becomes interesting. And they played their last game yesterday. against the Kraken. Mark Scheifele after the game said, I just have to know. So he was asked about like what he wants for the future. He says, I just have to know. I just have to understand where this team is going. I'm in the prime of my career. I still have so much to improve on too. And I like where my game is at. I like the physical nature that my body is at. I'm only improving. I'm only getting better. And I'm only going to be a better player next year than I was this year. I just have to know where this team is going and what the direction is and what the changes are going to be, if any. I have to think about my career and what's going to be best for me. Those are going to be talks with my agent and everyone in my family and stuff like that, and figure out what I really want. So it'll be a tough talk tomorrow. Talk about the exit interviews that they'll do on their way to summer vacation. Doesn't seem like Scheifele's all too happy in Winnipeg.
No, and he's so unhappy that he decided to tell the whole world about it. Like, that's very telling to me that you give that kind of answer to the media. He could have very easily given a generic hockey player answer. Especially
on the last day. Like, this is the palette that you're going to leave everyone with. You're going to leave them stewing about this all summer.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, Winnipeg's a team that, because of the time zone difference and the conference difference, I don't really follow that closely during the regular season. But this year, they just keep popping up kind of randomly. And I'm like, what is going on in Winnipeg? Like, when their coach just up and quit mid-season.
Yeah.
Now there's these comments from Scheifele. He doesn't know what the direction of the team is. He thinks he's in his prime, where it depends on where the team's going. He'll see what he's going to do. Then you got Paul Stastny saying things like, when guys don't play for each other and they only play for themselves, it shows on the ice. And then today, the Jets, we were just talking about Blashill and the Red Wings. The Jets just fired their coaching staff too.
Yeah. So clearly, I mean, Scheifele alluded to changes, right? If any, he said. Clearly, there are already changes started there in Winnipeg. But to me, that comment of players playing only for themselves from Stastny points right at Scheifele.
Yeah, totally.
When you have that comment, when you come out and say, whatever changes are happening with this team, I'm in the best time of my career. And I get for him to not want to just waste or seemingly waste the prime of his career, which I would agree he's in, right? Into his 30s, sadly, you're on the other side. You want to contribute and try to win a Stanley Cup at that time. But to throw the team under the bus, to throw your teammates under the bus, this is not, at no point did he mention anything positive about the people around him, the contributions of them. All he spoke about in that was himself.
Yeah, and it's weird because he's saying things like he needs to know what the direction of the team is, but that's almost a question you could ask him. Be like, hey, Mark, what is the direction of this team? Like, you're a part of the core. You've been here for however long. Like, what do you think?
Right. You've got the captaincy. You're like, you are the one driving this team. Where are you headed?
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know, man, this guy's starting to he's starting to come across as a bit of a beephead. We don't use foul language on this podcast, but you know what I mean? Like, the flag really went up for me last year. Remember in the playoffs, he took that awful hit, or he laid an awful hit below the goal line in the game they were losing to Montreal.
Yeah.
That he got suspended for.
Yeah.
Like, that was the first sign to me that I was like, what is going on in this guy's brain? And now there's these comments, like, it's just, I don't get good vibes from him.
No. And I do want, I said he's a captain. Blake Wheeler's a captain. He's the assistant. I knew there was something on his sweater.
I assumed you meant that he was like next in line.
Right. I mean, but
Blake Wheeler's a little older than him.
But they both have, they have matching lengths of contracts. They both have 2 more years after this. And so, like, to me, that's this window that Winnipeg is chasing, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to win and get it done in this 2 years, because after that, Wheeler's definitely done, retire or otherwise, skill level, not going to be there. Hellebuck's contract's done then. Scheifele's contract. This team is designed to win in these next 2 years. And when you've got a guy who signed on for that, who's now clearly not as signed on as you want, it's not a great sign.
But this team's not drastically different from their playoff runs the last few years. Like, if you get Hellebuck putting up another season that he did last year, this year, they're in the playoff mix.
For sure.
Yeah. Right? Like they're at that Nashville, Dallas, LA Kings level at least. If not, they could be better than them. Like I don't think this team needs that much work. Just a few tweaks here and there, and you need your goalie back to where you need him to be.
Yep. Yeah, I think they could be. They should be. Right? They've got the pieces that they need to, and there's no real changing that around. Right? You've got to expect. You got to expect the Wheeler's going to be probably a little bit of what he is right now. But I mean, Kyle Connor's been great. Nick Ehler's not as good, but I mean, they've got the stuff there. So I don't know. Shall we head to the playoffs?
Yeah, let's talk about the playoffs.
All right. Let's start in the East, mostly because those are the games that we have on right now. 2 games in the East today, 2 games in the West. Looks like most days for this first round, we're going to have 2 from each conference, which makes sense. Early games, late games. I also appreciate that the NHL staggered the times for once, finally. Hopefully that continues through the rest of the playoffs. 2 Eastern games, and they start a half hour apart. So thank you, NHL.
Yeah, they're finally figuring it out. So as we go through these previews and we give our predictions, I'm going to give you 2 sets of predictions, okay? One is going to be mine. The second is, I saw this hilarious video on the NHL's Instagram. And I don't really like promoting the NHL's Instagram because it's mostly garbage. But there's this video of this dog, and the person throws a ball at the dog, and the dog kind of barks at it and pushes it forward, and it falls in one of the garbage bins that says which team is going to win.
Okay.
So I have the dog's picks too.
Okay. I'm here for it.
Okay, I will see how far off we are.
I will give you my picks. I don't have a trash dog.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll compare your picks to the trash dogs.
Okay. Let's start then. Florida Panthers, Washington Capitals. Florida's the number 1 seed, won the President's Trophy even after, Colorado looked like they were doing well, but close race. Florida picks that up, and a real bounce back for this team with where they were even just last year, right? 2 years ago, Bobrovsky shows up. A little underwhelming. You bring in Quenneville. This team starts to play better. Quenneville leaves halfway through this year and still winning the President's Trophy. On the flip side, Washington kind of just doing Washington's thing, right? Kind of a very uneventful season for the most part. Nothing, no great highs or lows. Really just the focus of that team that from outsiders is watching Ovi try to catch Gretzky.
Yeah, which really has no impact when it comes to the playoffs. Doesn't matter, right? Like to me, this one's pretty clear cut. It's one of the most clear cut series in the league this year. Like I don't really think Washington stands a chance. I think if Florida can stay out of the box, then it should be easy for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when we look at this matchup in every area, Florida is stronger, even with some of the guys that they're missing. I'm in it for Florida. I have Florida in 5.
I've got Florida in 6.
Okay, so not as easy. What does the dog say?
The dog. So I don't have number of games because the dog can't talk. But the dog picked the Washington Capitals.
That dog's dumber. Can't pick number of games. Can't talk and pick Washington.
And pick Washington. Doesn't it know the Panthers are actually good now?
Yeah, come on. All right. Next up then, staying in the Atlantic, the series that has already started. Tampa Bay Lightning and Toronto Maple Leafs. We've got that game on. Second period just wrapped up, scoreless.
You mean first period?
That's the one.
Yeah, lots of penalties though. Kyle Clifford's already been ejected from the game for boarding.
I didn't see. So it was boarding. I didn't see what the actual penalty was.
It was a hit from behind. It was kind of right to the numbers. It pushed, I don't even remember the guy's name anymore, pushed his face right into the boards and he was bleeding. So
deserving.
Deserving. Yeah. And then I think Tampa's taken 2 or 3 penalties. This was one of the hardest series for me to pick.
Agreed.
They're both great teams. I think, like, statistically speaking, like, I know Toronto is in a better place, but I think talent wise, they're pretty even. So I think what this series is going to come down to is the non-number pieces. Tampa Bay is the back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champion. They've got the playoff experience. They know what it takes to win. The Toronto Maple Leafs have yet to win in the first round.
In this era of players, yeah.
In this era of players.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a fun stat that the Toronto Maple Leafs have never made it past the third round in the playoffs, ever. Because back in the days when they were winning Stanley Cups, there were only 3 rounds.
That's wild. That's a stat.
Right? Isn't that hilarious? So anyways, here's your Leafs fun fact of the day. I picked Tampa in 7.
I have Tampa in 6.
Oh.
And I agree with a lot of what you said. I think this is going to be, I say this now as we watch a scoreless game near the end of this first period. I actually think that this could become a pretty high scoring series. These are 2 teams with incredible offenses, and Toronto isn't as strong defensively and in net as Tampa is. And I think we're going to see it once, one of these teams scores, the other one's going to come back with some very strong offense, which I think could lead to some big runs in this series where you have a stretch of, 3 goals in 5 minutes and this starts to pile up. But I think what sold it for me was something that we touched on earlier, actually, is Jon Cooper. Aside from the 1 year where they lost to Columbus, and I think they clearly learned a lot from that because they won the next 2 Stanley Cups. He has shown that he can make those in-series adjustments that need to happen. Game to game in the NHL, you are able to scout and prepare and watch as much footage as you are in these playoffs. You're in-game scouting behind the bench for the next game as one's happening. You're getting in there. You're finding out the changes and adjustments that are making. And it's not the same as regular season coaching. You cannot just do the same thing every single game. Even the best teams, right? The Florida Panthers against the Washington Capitals cannot just do the same thing every game, most likely, unless it's like a real blowout, and hope to win. You have to make those adjustments. And we've seen that Cooper can do that. Sheldon Keefe, we haven't seen that he's able to do that successfully.
No, we know that he likes to swear in the locker room. It's about the extent of it. Which actually reminds me, there's no Amazon series this year for anyone, hey?
Isn't there?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything about it.
Because they released it at the start of the season this past year. So I'm not sure if they are or are not.
So maybe there might be. Yeah, it's a really good point about Jon Cooper. He's a very experienced coach who's kind of done it all before. The last thing I think I'll touch on is something we already mentioned is the special teams. Like Tampa takes a lot of penalties, surprisingly. And Toronto, I believe, had the number 1 power play in the league. So
both are very true. Yeah.
Both are true. So thank you. Thank you for fact checking me. So yeah, Tampa, stay out of the box because you don't want to unleash that Toronto power play on your goalie.
No. And this is a very different team than last year as well. You got to think back. I mean, they lost last year in the first round, but they also lost without John Tavares there. And so this is not the same situation. I don't consider this to be anywhere close to that same level.
Totally. And the good news is they made it through the first period without any of their superstars being hurt. So
okay. I was going to say, you said that with 2 seconds left for me. And with Andrei Vasilevsky sliding out to the dot to get a puck. So I was like, this could change. Do not jinx this. But nothing happened.
Well, there you go. All right. Who else we got?
Carolina and Boston. Let's do one more and then we'll take our break and come back on the side. Carolina and Boston, another matchup that got started tonight and another scoreless matchup.
So a little bit of a spoiler alert. In my picks, I didn't pick any underdogs to win a series. This is the one series where I almost picked the underdog because I thought of all the underdogs in the playoffs this year, I think Boston is kind of the scrappiest and probably the one who could pull through because of the sheer amount of like experience that they have on this team. I can't see it. I just can't see it. My brain is not comprehending it. So I had to go Carolina.
My heart was with Carolina in this situation, but my brain is with the Bruins.
Taking the underdog, hey?
Yeah, I think, even though Carolina had a fantastic season, down the stretch, they did not play very well because, the injuries, right? Freddie Anderson out. And that's a big loss for them. There's anti-Ranta. I'm not anti-Ranta, but I'm not pro-anti-Ranta. I think he's a fine goalie, but he is not win Stanley Cup rounds goalie. And I don't think this team is not enough to carry them past that. And we said it before, but Boston previously, you just had to shut down the one line. Well, they are no longer just a one line team. And I think that's going to be a big difference where you don't just have, you can't just shut down Pasternak, Marchand, and Bergeron. You have to be able to do more than just that. And so I think that's going to be a big help for the Bruins.
You're right that down the stretch, Carolina lagged behind a little bit. I did feel like they finished strong despite their goaltending issues. I think if they can rally behind Ranta in this round, if they can just get through this round, they'll be in a good place. Here's the thing. I think with this series, the Bruins might score a lot and the Hurricanes just have to score more. which sounds super obvious, but all season they've outscored the Bruins. The Hurricanes are a high offense team. So I think if they can just keep the goal scoring up, they'll be okay. It sounds so stupid saying.
So here's what
more goals.
Nick's analysis is that Boston's going to score, but Carolina will also score, and they're going to score more.
That is the kind of hard-hitting analysis people tune into the show for.
We'll be back on the other side looking at the rest of the matchups. Three, two, one.
We forgot about the trash dog.
Ooh, what's the trash dog been doing?
So the trash dog picked the Lightning. Okay. So he's on the same page as us.
Mm-hmm.
And he picked the Hurricanes. So you're wrong, Carl.
Me and the trash dog have only agreed on Tampa so far, but that's fine.
You've only agreed on Tampa so far. That's right.
We'll get there. One more matchup in the East. It is the New York Rangers and Pittsburgh Penguins, which I feel is, I know you said that you thought the Lightning Toronto series was going to be close. I feel like this one could be sneaky close.
In theory, I agree with you, but then I look at the regular season matchup between these teams and it wasn't that close. Like, I'm pretty sure the Rangers swept the Penguins this year. I'm going to tell you, because this app that we use has a super handy feature this year where the playoff matchup tells you their regular season. Oh no, it disappeared.
Oh no.
Oh man. All right. Well, I'm going to have to look that up. But the Rangers had a very good season against the Penguins.
Okay.
And that's
I
ultimately why I went with New York.
Okay. I agree. Also, Triston Jarry out at least the first two games.
It's another big one.
And for me, that's the biggest thing that I look at and say, I'm not sure that happens. And it honestly, this is a series, and I know this will be the narrative for many, but this is a series of the veteran playoff Stanley Cup winning experience of Pittsburgh versus the young, up and coming, inexperienced New York Rangers.
Yeah. What a rise these New York Rangers have had, hey? Was it only 2 years ago when that letter to the fans went out?
I think it was 3 years.
3 years ago?
It was 3 years ago.
It's amazing what a little bit of luck at the draft can do for you, and some high-profile free agent signings. But they've turned this thing around, and they're good now.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're a bona fide playoff team. And I think they will be for quite some time, right? And in net, they managed to settle that down, right? To be able to go fairly seamlessly from like Henrik Lundqvist to now Shesterkin, quite the get.
Yeah, huge get. And like Shesterkin is good enough to silence, I think, the Penguins' offense. Not to mention the fact that the Penguins' offense is climbing in age every year that goes on. There's another obvious fact for you.
We should get a bell, and every time that one of us says something that's clearly obvious, we just ding it, just to let everyone know the other person sees that.
It's a good idea. I think where the Rangers are going to run into some resistance is in the second round when they're facing a tougher goalie. Because even if Triston Jarry comes back this year or this series, he's coming in cold.
He's coming in cold. And he's not coming in at 100%, right? Yeah. They're going to get him in there as fast as they're able to. And depending on what happens in those first two games, if the Rangers are up to nothing and it comes down to like, hey, we need to change something, that change in net, getting him in there before he's ready could be something we notice.
Yeah. So I've picked the Rangers in, it was 5. I changed it to 6. Rangers in 6.
I closed where I had it open. My picks. Let me just double check. I don't know where I put that.
I can tell you the trash dog first while you look it up.
Okay. What does the trash dog say?
Trash dog says Rangers.
I said Rangers in 7.
Okay. There you go. You and the trash dog agree. 7. Hey, wow. That's good. That's good for the Penguins.
Yeah. Now that we've had this conversation, I regret that pick. It should have been 5.
Yeah. 5 or 6. That's where I think it'll net out.
Can you remind me what you picked? I was busy trying to find the link.
I picked 6. I initially wrote down 5 and then I scratched it out and changed it to 6.
Okay. So we're close. 5, 6, something like that.
Yeah.
Who do you have coming out of the East? Let's quickly run through our picks the rest of the way. See how those go.
Coming out of the East total, like going to Stanley Cup Finals?
Yeah. Let's just quickly go through what we've got in our bracket.
So second round, I got Florida, Tampa. I picked Florida.
I had Florida, Tampa. I picked Tampa.
Yeah. See, that was a tough one too. I considered going Tampa. On the other side, I had Carolina, New York. I picked New York. That's my upset.
I had Boston, New York. I picked New York.
Okay. So Stanley Cup final for the East, I put Florida.
I was supposed to pick Florida. Apparently, I put the Rangers.
Oh, you got New York coming over Tampa?
I thought I picked Tampa. I should have picked Tampa. I don't know how I picked the Rangers, but my thing says Rangers, but my brain and heart both say Tampa. So
wow, Tampa for the 3rd year in a row, going all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. Hey,
that's my plan.
Man, watch it be like Pittsburgh. We're gonna be so.
Or Washington. Can you imagine Washington that we literally gave them 30 seconds of airtime today, and they're like, "We're gonna show you Fourth Line Podcast. Good thing you're retiring soon."
Yeah, they're just they're gonna believe they're the reason we went off the air. They're like, we own these guys so bad they stopped recording their podcast.
Yeah, idiots.
All right, let's do the West.
Speaking of idiots, the Nashville Predators are playing the Colorado Avalanche in the first round.
Were you always planning on starting with that series, or did that segue just come up for you?
I did. I wrote that down first. Okay. So
all right. I think this is another team. Like, I think there's a lot that we could talk about for your team, Carl, but when it comes to the Nashville Predators, I don't think we need to give them a lot of airtime.
This is, I feel like, very similar to how I feel about the Washington Capitals, except the one thing that I have positive to say about the Nashville Predators and Juuse Saros is out for the first 2 games in this series, with David Rittich coming in. He's had some good times, but they are in the distant past. This Avalanche team, I have them winning in 4.
This is not the sweep I picked. I picked Colorado in 5.
Yeah. I mean, this would be, to me, this is the biggest difference. And I know that I'm incredibly biased with this, but if they lost, this would be the biggest upset of the playoffs.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. For a lot of reasons, though. I mean, the Colorado Avalanche have been a Stanley Cup favorite for the last 2 to 3 years.
won the conference, almost won the President's Trophy. Depth, goaltending, defense.
Plus, they're super scorers shooting against David Riddick in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
It's not going to go well for the Preds.
No. David Riddick should put some sunscreen on the back of his neck.
So you'll be happy to know the trash dog picked the Avalanche.
Let's go on to Minnesota and St. Louis.
I think it was last week we talked about this series. This is a tough one. So the thing about this series, I picked it last, but I wrote down first 7 games. Like, this is one I just feel it's going to go to 7.
That's exactly what I did.
I couldn't figure out which team was going to come out. Ultimately, I picked Minnesota.
I think this one, I literally like blindly just like spun my finger, closed my eyes and picked one.
I just picked Minnesota because I'm kind of sick of the Blues. So that was my reasoning.
I hate both of these teams. So they can both play a very difficult 7-game series and then come up against the Avalanche fresh off of a sweep.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. The other thing is, on one hand, you got Jordan Binnington, who's just like objectively not a very likable hockey player. And then on the other side, you got Marc-Andre Fleury, who is objectively a very likable hockey player.
True. One of them is starting and the other one is on the bench, though. So unlikable Jordan Binnington, not going to be the one. Billy Husso getting the net for the Blues. Marc-Andre Fleury is getting the start over Cam Talbot tonight for the Wild.
Should be a good matchup and a good series.
Yeah, this is one that I could see some pretty low scoring games. The Blues kept teams off the scoreboard very well this year. If I were to pick a series to have, this is something we haven't done for the rest of them, but if there was one that's going to give us like a triple OT game, it's this series right here.
Totally. This series screams overtime, like multiple overtime games.
Yeah, repeatedly all series.
It's going to be heavy. This is going to be the stuff that rivalries are made on this series.
Yeah. It's good. All right.
Hold on. Trash Dog picked the Minnesota Wild. Did you pick the Wild?
I did pick the Wild. Yeah.
Okay. So all 3 of us have the Wild in 7.
Let's go to the Flames and the Stars.
This is where I slotted my sweep in.
Really?
Calgary over Dallas in 4.
Wow.
My hate for the Stars is palpable at this point.
Is it solely because of Jamie Benn?
Jamie Benn's a big part of it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, it's, I feel like the hate keeps piling on when they make me wrong about my decisions. Like I don't like being proved wrong. So.
Yeah, I get that. I'm confused about something. Continue. I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
Here's what happened here. I missed the fact that the Leafs scored a goal in that Tampa game. And so I just looked at the intermission and saw 1-0 and said, it's not 1-0, it's 0-0.
No, it's 1-0. Jake Muzzin scored. It was late in the period he scored.
Yeah, I just completely missed it because I was doing this and I've got 2 games on and it's just a lot of moving parts over here, Nick. Anyway, sorry for my distraction.
So that's okay, Carl. I forgive you. I think the Flames had a much better season than anyone was anticipating, and I think they're going to ride that hot streak far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, well, clearly, right? Last year, I will openly admit how wrong I am. When the Flames brought Daryl Sutter back in last year, I said, this is a stupid idea. This isn't going to work. He's going to play hockey with regressive ideas, and the high scoring talent he has on this team is not going to be able to thrive. Fast forward to this year, and I look like a dum-dum because they have played well. And honestly, what I hear from him is it's not as like, we're just going to go out. I have like the fact that I hear Daryl Sutter talking about analytics and like looking at some of these stats is surprising to me. And I give him full credit for being able to rekindle the abilities of a lot of guys on this team. Johnny Gaudreau's had a fantastic season. He's done everything that the Flames have needed out of him. Jacob Markstrom was exactly the goalie that they signed when they brought him in from Vancouver. And the loss of Mark Giordano at captaincy has really given that opportunity for guys to say, hey, look, I'm going to step up. Someone had to step up and be the leader on this team. And we see multiple guys who've done it this year. And I've just been impressed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that they can go far. This is one team where I think down the line, I could be wrong on through my bracket.
Well, I have them in 5. I do not have them in 4. But I could see a sweep.
Anything to say about the Stars?
I think that they will put up a better fight than you give them credit for. They have players that have done this in the past. The Stars, as you know, the Avalanche and Stars have played a lot of games against each other, and they always show up. There will be very few blowouts in this series. The Stars will stay in it. They'll play hard. They'll play well, and this will not be an easy series for the Flames. This will be a physical series. I look forward to finding out who on the Stars. Do you have a prediction? Who on the Stars will Matthew Tkachuk irrationally hate all series?
Oh man, that's a great question. Probably one of their top new guys. What's his name? Jason Robertson. Like, he's going to go after somebody who, if he can put him in the box for a couple minutes, is going to be worth it for them.
And I assume that Jamie Benn will answer the call from the other side.
Yeah, obviously. I just hope everyone's wearing their neck guards because Jamie Benn likes to go after the neck.
Okay. Notes for the Flames. That wasn't caught in your scouting. Nick's got your back.
Yeah, I got your back. I got the video I can show you.
What does Trash Dog like here?
The Dallas Stars.
Yeah. Interesting.
Not very smart, Trash Dog.
Well, that's fine. He's allowed to be wrong every now and again. Last series, we have the Los Angeles Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers should be here. With what they have, they should be a playoff team. The LA Kings, the biggest surprise of the season.
100%. 100%. And they're so much of a surprise that I can't see them coming out of this series as the winner.
You don't think that the Kings have the, no one believes in us. No one gives us any credit. Everything from here on out is gravy. Because for the Oilers, there's a lot of pressure on them, right? There's a ton of pressure. They've got multiple MVPs on this team, right? They've got Draisaitl, they've got McDavid, and they need to perform because these guys, their legacies are on the line here. The questions that they get, well, why didn't you win, right? It's the exact same situation that the Leafs are facing over in the East. Whereas the Kings, even if they get swept, even if they get blown out in every game, there is no one that will look at them and say, well, Kings are terrible. They're not going to do it. They could come back next year and no one will question it. They'll just say, yeah, well, Kings got some good playoff experience last year. They'll learn from it and they'll grow. For me, that's what I see could be a difference. Just the mental states of both of these teams. The Kings are coming in loose.
Yeah. And they're not expected to win. So they don't really have, like you said, that pressure on them. So I get that. I just think the Oilers have two of the best players in the league playing together. And I think that's they're just going to dominate the series. I don't think the Oilers goaltending matters in this series. It would matter against any other team in the Western Conference. I don't think it matters in this series.
Which is good because their goaltending is a huge hole.
Yeah. And it's the reason that they're not going to get past the second round. But I think that they got lucky with this. And I think, what really kind of sucks is maybe it doesn't suck, but I wonder, let's say this. I wonder how much momentum the Oilers can build, how much excitement they can build for themselves through this first round, because beyond this, it's not going to be so easy.
Well, I mentioned the pressure. If it's one of these teams, whether it be Leafs or whether it be Oilers, You win one round. That's all that it takes, right? You win one round and you're no longer that team that can't get out of the first round. You're no longer that team that misses the playoffs. You're no longer that team that struggles. You are a team that just won 4 out of 7 games, or 4 out of 4, however many it is. You won the majority of them. You're coming in. I feel like momentum, kind of as you go from round to round, momentum becomes irrelevant. You just won those games, right? Whether you swept, whether you won in 7, freshness, health is an issue, but momentum's kind of eliminated. Everyone just won 4 games. Everyone's won the same amount of games in the playoffs.
Yeah, fair. But like at some point, it's gotta, for these 2 teams specifically, since we're talking about them, the first round can't be enough for how good these teams are supposed to be.
You mean the Leafs and the Oilers?
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
It can't be. Like their expectations have to be so much higher.
And it's easier for the Oilers, right? Because the Oilers got the Kings. They did not get the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions in the first round. And so I think, for this Oilers team, it's mission critical for them to win this series. And, I look at what the Kings can do. I look at who they have. There's a lot of new faces there. There's a lot of guys that, Kings should be excited about. And they will be when we do our season. When we don't do our season preview next year, when I sit on my couch and yell into the clouds, that was weird. It's going to be, I'll be in favor of the Kings for sure.
So how many games do you have the Oilers winning in?
6.
Same. Oilers in 6. Trash Dog? Pick the Kings.
Trash Dog likes the upset.
Trash Dog hates Canada. Trash Dog didn't pick a single Canadian team.
That's kind of a glaring issue there, Trash Dog.
Yeah. Trash Dog. But you know what I think is the best part of an Edmonton victory is we get a Battle of Alberta second round.
And that will be amazing. Trash Dog has no choice but to pick a Canadian team then.
Yeah, totally.
Who do you have winning that Battle of Alberta?
Calgary.
It's Calgary. And it's Colorado for me on the other side.
Same. Now, between Calgary and Colorado.
Now, this is a matchup. This is when we first saw the potential of these Colorado Avalanche. I don't know if you recall a few years back, Avalanche were starting in the playoffs, playing against Calgary. A certain young upstart defenseman named Cale Makar came in, made his hot playoff debut, his season NHL career debut in the playoffs against the Flames. I believe scored in his very first game. Avalanche went on to win that series, I believe in 6, lost in the second round, but a rematch of that with a lot of the same people still involved.
And I picked Colorado, but this is one where I say down the stretch, I could be wrong. It wouldn't surprise me if Calgary went to the finals.
That would disappoint me in so many ways.
Disappoint, I feel like, is a light word.
You have no idea how much I don't want that to happen. I'm red in the face. Like I'm even just the thought of that happening would be miserable for me in every way possible.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I think Colorado's too good of a team. Like nobody should be beating them in these playoffs.
Yes, but injuries happen. Nazem Kadri's suspensions happen. These are all things that could derail their Stanley Cup chances.
Totally. You never know. But if all goes well, I've got Colorado right through.
Right through to winning the Stanley Cup against your Florida Panthers, my apparently New York Rangers, even though I definitely clicked Tampa.
Yes.
This is the first time in the history of this podcast that I have picked my Colorado Avalanche to win the Stanley Cup.
How do you feel?
Great. Because here's the thing. If they lose it, I don't have to listen to the haters. We're just going to end the show. If they win it, get to go it on top. We're going to have, I don't know what the new segment's going to be called for like the 3 weeks that we do shows after the Stanley Cup, but I'm making a new segment, probably Avalanche of the Week. And who knows what it'll be, but it's going to be great.
Well, I can't wait for that. That sounds like so much fun. Maybe Nick will end his podcast 3 weeks early.
I'm sick in July. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't.
Look, we know that you can persevere. You literally recorded with COVID. The least
that is true. Yeah.
The least you can do is show up if the Avalanche win the Stanley Cup.
Well, I've picked them to win, so I'm at least expecting it. I can't remember last year. I think I maybe picked Tampa to win last year, but I may have picked Colorado.
I believe I picked Tampa to win as well. I believe it was Tampa over Vegas for me last year. I don't think I picked Colorado to get past Vegas.
Oh yeah, that was a tough series.
It was. So that's it. Those are our 8 series. We have 2 goals now in Carolina, Boston. Carolina up 2-0 on the Boston Bruins.
So you're saying they're scoring more goals than the Bruins?
You know what? So far, they are.
My strategy is paying off.
But you're half right, because you said Boston's going to score. Carolina just has to score more.
You're right. This is the stuff champions are built on, Carl.
You know what? I think here's what's great is they looked at it from a different angle. This is why Rob Brindamore is such a great coach. He saw that strategy of Boston to score and Carolina to score more. And he said, you know what we're going to do instead? We're going to stop Boston from scoring and just score ourselves. That's his plan.
Smart guy. That's what separates the best from the rest.
That's why he's an NHL coach and we are podcasters.
That's right.
That's it. That's the playoffs. We are, one of my favorite things as well is just getting to chime in with you all on the social media, on Twitter. Me, you, Elon Musk, Nick, we're all going to talk about the NHL playoffs together. So head on over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast, where we are going to play High Sticking, where every day you pick for us. And I think there was some confusion today, so we'll try to clear that up. But every day you're going to pick who you think is going to win each and every single game for the first round. You get 1 point for every victory you correctly pick. At the end of the entire playoffs, if you have the most points, you are the winner of an NHL jersey. For the second time of this season, this is our third time handing out a jersey. We just handed one out. Congratulations to Adam Call, who was tied going into the final day. He picked 4-2 Jets. Matt picked 2-1 Jets, and the final score was 4-3 Jets.
Oof.
Congratulations to Adam, winner of this round. Send us a message. We'll reach out, sort out what jersey you want, where we can send it, all of that. But don't be sad for Matt. I mean, you can be sad for Matt, but don't be too sad because he was not only tied in high sticking going into the final day of the regular season, he was also tied in the finals of our fantasy league. That ended in a tie, which went to the tiebreaker, which was regular season matchups. Well, their last regular season matchup, they tied that one as well. We had to go back all the way to week 10 of the regular season, where Matt won 5-3. That was the deciding victory in our fantasy matchup. So congratulations to Matt beating Kristen Meyer, who put up a maze. She was the 1 seed. He was the 2 seed. A great matchup, incredibly close. Thank you to everyone who played in our fantasy league. A lot of fun.
Such a fun year. Congrats to Matt. That is an intense way for fantasy season to end. So good job to everyone.
Him going into that final day was, I mean, it's the most that anyone cared. Even the players in that game, no one cared about Jets Kraken on Sunday afternoon more than Matt did. Being tied in high sticking, being tied in the season. Anyways, Matt, we will reach out to you as well because we got to send you a prize.
Definitely.
So we will be reaching out to you to get that out, and we'll see where the playoffs take us. We've got hockey to go watch, though, Nick.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure Toronto's going on a 5-on-3 right now.
That is because they are.
So, I'm behind you, hey?
There's a minute left in the 2-man advantage.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So we're even.
We should go watch this.
We should. You're good call on you, though. You said Tampa takes a lot of penalties, and there it is. Austin Matthews.
Uh-oh. this is exactly what Tampa shouldn't be doing.
They shouldn't be giving those power plays. Yeah.
Yeah. No, terrible idea.
Anyways, that's looking like Toronto has come out strong. I mean, they've doubled Tampa in shots, even with that extended Kyle Clifford power play. So both of these games right now are 2-0. Let's see how the rest of them go. But join us on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. We'll be hanging out, chatting all about these playoffs. We'll be watching the games and just enjoying what we've got. So find more about us at thefourthlinepodcast.com. Subscribe where you can find us in your mailbox. Not like your physical mailbox, but like your podcast mailbox every Monday night, Tuesday morning, waiting for you to find out our thoughts on the playoffs. Next week, we've got so much to talk about, but we'll probably have to figure out what Nick cooks this weekend first.
Yeah, well, I'll let you know.
Till next time.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be goals that are scoring and hits that are throwing and Stanley Cup cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the year.